Welcome to the Noodle Podcast. We're Kate and Max, and we love noodling on what we've learned by accident. This podcast is a space where we share how we get the best out of ourselves and the people we've worked with. In today's episode, we consider the benefits of slowing down and pausing on your own or with others to collect your thoughts and even avoid burnout. This sounds very heavy, so we thought we'd kick off with a very, very badly told joke. Hello.
Hello. Joke. Let's start with a joke.
Start with a joke.
Come on, we need it.
Oh.
Come on, let's see if you can get it right.
I'll probably get it wrong. Okay. A bear walks into a bar.
Yep.
And the barman says, "Hi, what can I get you?" And the bear says, "A beer, please." And the barman says, "Why the big pause?"
It's the power of pause.
The power of pause. Not bear pause, but how important it is sometimes just to slow right down, take stock of what's going on. I had to do this last year. I was pretty close to burnout. And you were saying, "Why don't you take a break?" And I was like, "I can't possibly take a break," which
too busy
was a sign that I needed to take a break. I think my reaction that I just couldn't possibly. I was far too busy. There was too many things riding on everything I was doing, which there were. I mean, there was that happening, but yeah, I needed just to get away from everything, not be looking at emails, not be taking phone calls, trust that other people could do the stuff that I had been doing. And I did. I took myself away to a little cottage in the country, in the middle of fields, almost no Wi-Fi, took some books, and was just by myself with the sound of birds tweeting in the fields around me for 3 days.
And how was
it? Was horrific to start off with. Day one, awful.
Yeah.
I could not sit still, constantly wanting to check my phone. And, I couldn't even read 2 pages of my book without the need to find out what was going on in the world, check the headlines, what did I think was going to happen? I don't know. By day 3, I had really, really chilled and realised how important the fact that it was so difficult to do nothing, to pause, showed that I needed to do it more. I need to practice that.
Yeah.
I help my coaching clients do it. Why not do it myself? So I've booked another one. Yes.
So horrific, you're going to do it again. There
yes.
we go.
Yes. Yeah.
So needs must. But pausing doesn't have to be as big as that, does it?
No.
So 3 days
because of a crisis
with the log burner and the books, significant investment. So how about the pause in the day?
Yeah.
And I think that and that the pace, you talk about that sort of frenetic busyness and that going from one meeting to another, particularly when we're doing things virtually, there's a need to slow down and pause before you step into whatever it is that you're stepping into. Where am I at? What's going on for me? What do I need out of this moment? How do I need to be? That sort of whole choice thing. I know we touched a bit on it last podcast, but that pause, intentional pause, so important.
And it can feel counterintuitive when you're very, very busy to slow down. But it can mean that the conversations you have and the agreements you make are much more robust because you've taken the time to allow people to do that. So there's a few different techniques that we use with groups, but if you're running a meeting, it can be good to think about this as well. If you're the manager that's responsible for helping people use this time to get to a good space. So, do you want to say about one of the liberating structures, or a couple of them actually, that we use?
Well, the favourite one, we might have talked about it before, is the 1, 2, 4 all. And the thing I love about 1, 2, 4 all is that it's the 1 minute at the beginning is on your own. So that opportunity to pause and just think, what do I think about this topic? Not what does everybody else think, not listening to them, not listening to just listening to yourself and really capturing that moment before you go into pairs to do it 2, 4, that sort of thing. That's really powerful.
That's a nice way of making sure everyone's got equal space as well, because you're doing silent reflection. You're writing down your bullet points before you share them. So it means people like you and me who tend to be very comfortable jumping in would hog all the airtime if you just said, "So what does everyone think?" but by really forcing that silence for just a minute for people to take stock of what do we think about this.
The other one that we like is the 3 W's: what, so what, now what.
Yes.
And that's more about holding a group, so pausing or slowing them down. So making them stay in a certain space. So if you're working with a group on wanting to change something, might be a process, might be a way of working together, is to spend some time together on what is going on here. So really investigating together, what are each of our experiences? What are we noticing?
Yes.
Before jumping to, okay, so what? So what's the conclusion, the assumptions, the meaning we can take from this? Before then moving into now what, which is the action, the change.
It can be very difficult to hold people in that what is going on now space, because people want to say, well, when we used to do it like this, or what we ought to be doing, or because of them, blah, blah. But if you actually say, imagine I've come into your space with a video camera, what would I see happening?
Yeah.
Not what do we want to be happening, what should be different.
Yeah.
But often as a facilitator, you notice where people are tempted to go to move away. But if you do that, you can miss the actual problem or the issues that need addressing.
Yeah. So slowing people down is another way of pausing, I guess, is what we're saying. And
yes.
And that opportunity as well, we like 6 hats, when you get people to be thinking in a different way. But it slows people down. So that instead of one person always being positive, enthusiastic, and another person always saying, well, that won't work because, is allowing everybody to be in that thinking space.
Yes.
So that you get the best outcome for everybody.
There's a theory that says without pause, you can't really focus on the stuff. So music, for example.
Yeah.
Music wouldn't be enjoyable to listen to unless there were breaks between bars or between notes. Actually, the silence allows punctuation to happen, doesn't it? In conversation and in music.
Don't you have a particular talent on the...
I don't know if you call it talent. I have experience in the Kent Youth Orchestra when I was a teenager, where I played percussion. Someone had to do it. It was me. And although percussion gets a bad rap, there's a little joke for you. A lot of percussion is counting when everyone else is doing stuff, so that you come in with the cymbal crash or the whatever, the kettle drums. And that's really, really tense for the person who's having to do all the counting. So most of what you're doing is pause. It's being very, very aware of what you're not doing. Because if you come in at the wrong time, it's very, very noticeable when you're playing in a big orchestra, if you're percussion. If you're some other instrument, flute, violin, you can kind of hide if you're getting things wrong because there's numbers there. But that power of pause, I think, allows you to really notice what else is going on.
And that bit there where you talk about the punctuation point, it makes me think about that moment as well when we're in a situation where someone asks us something and we don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And the temptation is to keep rambling.
Yeah.
When we get maybe hijacked by the fear of, I don't know the answer, rather than pausing and allowing that pause to punctuate the moment and say, actually, interesting question. Hadn't thought about that. Now I'm thinking about it though. Yes. And it can create some gravitas because you're showing that you're comfortable dealing with uncertainty, but it also gives your body a chance to catch up, doesn't it? Because we do get hijacked, right?
And I think for a lot of newer managers, they feel like they should have all the answers. Otherwise, why have they been given this job? But you can role model how to slow down and give space, and maybe by saying, I'm having a think about that. Really interesting question. What do you think? Even if it's to someone more senior, or you say, I'll take this away, or I'll get my team onto it, or whatever else. It's so much better than just making it up.
And the pause gives you a chance to grab hold of your body if it decides to run away with you.
Yes.
Because that bit about being asked a question you don't know the answer to, sometimes for some of us, not in every situation, can feel a little bit like a...
Yes, fight or flight, there we go again, So taking a breath is really important because it allows that fight or flight part of your brain to just pause, calm down, your logical part can take over. Is it Victor Frankl talks about the space in between trigger and reaction.
Yeah.
So if somebody cuts you up, do you slam on the brakes and your horn at the same time to let them know exactly what you think of them? Well, yeah, you could do that, and then suddenly you're stuck in traffic with that person. Oh my goodness, you've got 5 minutes of both. Yeah.
Argy-bargy.
Yeah, or pretending you're not doing eye contact with each other. All of that, but you have got choice. You can notice what the trigger is, the thing that annoys you, or the thing that somebody's just said that usually makes you see red or whatever, and create that space. Take the breath. Do something a little bit more considered. Choose whether to respond or not. It doesn't mean you don't have to, but if you do it with intent, or, you know, what is the point you want to make next? Does it need to happen now, or could it happen later? Yeah. Yeah. And that can happen with feedback as well, can't it? Is having that intent to think about, what is it that I want this person to know? I'm gonna plan before I go into that conversation.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity to pause or to slow down before you go into something. There's also in the moment, and whether that's to give yourself time to catch up or to create gravitas. But there's also that need to have some space at the end of things. So that opportunity to reflect or to learn or to but actually intentionally take time. So how many people stop at the end of a meeting 5 minutes before the end and say, how are we today?
Let's acknowledge what we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just as a recap, but as a real sense of, who were we when we gave this the space to be together? And as well as, what did we achieve?
Yeah. And what do we want to repeat, or what do we not want to repeat? So that opportunity to pause and think about, what have we learnt?
Yes. Yes. I love that reflection space. I wonder if it can be overdone sometimes.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Because there's a school of thought, I think Nancy Kline's Time to Think is really popular with some people when they're having a coaching conversation, where you ask the question and you let the other person respond and you don't say anything. You just let them go and go and go. And then maybe there's silence and you still don't say anything. Personally, that makes me feel ill. The thought of it. But you know, that's kind of an extreme end of what does happen if you say nothing. You have to trust that somebody is having a thought process. Something will come out of this. It doesn't always have to be you, me, breaking the silence.
But that emergent element is important, because when you're working with a team or you're working with groups, you need to create some space for that opportunity for it to emerge. And you're right, if the danger is we sprint to the gap, we'll fill it up, rather than actually, no, things are going on even though you can't see it. Cogs are whirring, brains are doing stuff, hearts are getting engaged, and you just have to wait.
And be courageous. Trust and be courageous that you don't need to fill in that gap, and something really interesting could come up that surprises you, rather than just assuming you know what they're thinking, or that they're not thinking anything. So,
pausing before, during and after. I've got a big picture of a bear in my head now. Playing the cymbals and its big paws.
Playing the cymbals and trying to hold a big pint of beer. At the same time. Not sure how that works.
So noodles that we think would relate to this.
Yes. There's a couple that we help people with when they really are in the moment and everything feels too much. One is breathe, just a really neat breathing exercise. One is apple, which allows you to pause, pull back, let go, have a different perspective, feel more able when you come back into that moment.
And I think the type of change is really helpful to understand, so that you recognise whether it's you or somebody else, that it's having an impact or it's going to have an impact, and allowing you to give people space to pause, or giving yourself space to pause and just think, okay, what's going on for me?
Yes.
And I guess Johari's window.
Yes. Do you know how good you are at leaving space? What happens? It might be helpful to find out from someone that you trust. You know, did it feel like I left a really long space there, or not at all? And how good am I at holding space and allowing people to come up with their stuff? Yeah. Excellent. Shall we pause?
Press pause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time. You can find a reminder of the books and noodles we've mentioned in this episode's blurb and get daily snippets on Instagram at noodle.space. Don't forget to subscribe, share and leave us a review. We love hearing your stories too on the chat at www.noodle.space.